how long have you guys been working on it?
Greg, how long?
I think, it's been from my point of view, it's been a long time, because we sort of pick up little pieces as we go along and over the years. And I've said it more than once to him that we should be doing this. And but really in the last year, I think it took about a year to bring it all together. So, but prior to that, unfortunately, I've been hanging around like a bad smell for most of his life. So I've sort of, we know enough to be able to do it shorthand. And, the great thing is that Anthony doesn't particularly want to look back or talk about himself that much. So I get around that a little bit by having been on the scene, so to speak. And so a lot of the obvious stuff he doesn't have to repeat or go down the path with me. And, he can continue to look forward and be as creative as he wants to be. So it's been a good arrangement. It's been a pretty interesting year. One way or another. Yeah.
What helps is occasionally you just badger him for an interview every few years, and it forces him to talk about himself. Very helpful. Very helpful.
That's the way to do it, mate. You've got to keep it up.
So, now obviously, Anthony and I were both in the infantry. So, with that in mind, was it difficult? Were you brought on because Anthony doesn't know how to write, or?
Yeah, no,
that is a true grunt.
He's been pretty good for the last 3 to 4 years. He knows the whole alphabet now. The entire alphabet. So yeah, he makes a mistake here or there, but he's all right.
He's so good. I love it.
And
I love it.
We love crayons. The red ones taste best. Yeah. Tastes like.
No, I'm sure he could have done it. I'm sure he could have done it himself if he liked. It's just the fact that I am, as I say, I've been around, so I sort of don't have to go through the process of compiling, and he's busy with everything else.
I just love
That's the way his approach is.
It is.
But they put a sentence together, one sentence, but he can do one sentence.
That's brilliant.
I mean, it is. It would be the challenge with, I was honestly surprised when I heard the announcement, that you'd put this book together. I know how busy you guys are.
It's that, and also, Tom, honestly, I'll be honest, I'll be glad. It's great it's come out, and it's a good book. I've read it, but I'll be glad when, I sort of
goes away,
comes and goes away, But there is there's really a lot of good laughs. I actually originally wanted the book to be like, Max Walker's How to Hypnotise Chooks, like a fun book, just totally about funny things that have happened, because stacks of funny things have happened. But Greg brought in a lot more. There's all sorts of just life things that happen in life, and as we both know, Tom, it's not always a bed of roses. So it's good to have the humorous part, and then also talk about the challenges that we all face.
Yeah, I think it was interesting for Anthony too. It would have been, you can understand we all love a laugh, and it would have been great to just do that like that as well. But at this particular time too, with the Wiggles going through somewhat of a transition in the last couple of years, I really thought it was really good that he could maybe explain why he's thinking behind that process, and sort of just reiterate that the Wiggles basically are based on the same principles as they started with. And that's the security of what he's been doing, and why he's done what he's done in the last couple of years. And so I really thought that was bare saying, out loud. So I'm glad he's done it.
How long ago was the How I Got My Wiggle Back book? Because that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Greg who did that.
Yeah, that was a long time. That was a long time. We sort of focused on the medical. That was like more than a decade ago, but. And some of the, obviously some of the biographical facts are the same. You haven't changed that much, but it was really a different sort of focus. What we really wanted to focus on here was to tell Anthony's story, in the context of the Wiggles, and I think hopefully we've achieved that.
And Greg interviewed some of the diggers that I served with
here and there, which was great. One of the great things.
What were the quotes?
No, I can't do it. None of the good ones are in there.
Oh, yeah, it's funny, mate. Yeah.
So, one of the, obviously, you and I have, we've done 2 interviews now. We've talked a lot about, mental health, and obviously you and I bonded a lot over military service. One thing that I wanted to ask about was your degree. So you got a degree in early childhood education. Is that right?
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
What year was that, or what yearish, roughly?
It was after I left the army, so I went to university after the army, and they still, even though I was a grunt, they still let me in.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? I'll tell you. Like, okay,
I still laugh, mate. That was the funniest freaking thing.
It's like, if you help us move this bookshelf, you can stay.
That's it, mate.
Firstly, how long does that kind of degree take to get?
Well, I did it part time, so I did it over 4 years. It's 3 years, 4 years to get the bachelor, and I got a diploma of teaching early childhood. Yeah.
So, what was some of your? Firstly, I guess what was the lure to get you into that? Like, what motivated that? Had you always been around young people?
Tom, you're going to believe this. Okay, I got out of the army in July. I was sitting around for a month. I was going to join the police force. My sister, classic, right? My sister Alice said, "I'm going to do this mature age test to get in and become an early childhood teacher. Would you drop me off?" It was in Waverley. I drove from Maroubra to Waverley, and I dropped her off. And I walked over and I said, "Now, I have come from 5'7" RAR, infantry. There's the land of men, no women in the army in those days, in the infantry." And I looked around and there were girls everywhere, women everywhere. And I said to Alice, "Can I do the test too?" And she said, "Yeah." So that was the motivation. I had nothing to do with early childhood, never thought about it before. So I did the mature age test and I got in. Now, there was no men doing early childhood at that time. And Alice got in too, but she only stayed 5 days. But I stayed the whole time. And as it went on, I actually started loving that it was about empowering children. So I came from knowing absolutely nothing to really believing what this university philosophy was, the ethos, which was about empowering children, learning about their development. But, mate, honestly, I had no idea what I was getting in for, and I was doing it just because I'd been in the land of men for so long.
I'm exactly the same. I prefer working with women these days, and that's because I spent so long sitting out, having not showered for weeks on end with this department. And I was like, oh, boy, smell.
Sure.
Yeah.
What was some of the biggest kind of light bulb moments for you when you were doing that degree? Like, what was some of the things that stuck out to you as like, changed your ways of thinking when it came to children?
Yeah, really good one, Tom. One of them I always remember was when they were talking about, when I went through school, children would get labelled as a naughty kid, a bad kid, and one of the first year we will learn, don't label children. You label a jar, but you don't label a child. These so-called bad children, they're probably sad children. There's not maybe what they're doing is naughty, but they're not a naughty child. Every child is you can turn them around, make them enjoy life, make them enjoy themselves, what's about themselves. But in the old days, I was a bad kid. It's funny. I went and taught my. I coached my boys' basketball team, and when I first started, one of the teachers came up to me and said, "Oh, they're a bunch of bad kids. They're like the." And I thought, geez, it's still around, that sort of bad kid thing. So that was a light bulb moment. That take people and to take children and go, okay.
In the arts focus too, I think.
What,
you got a lot out of the arts focus. The idea that you could, your imagination, their imagination takes them. Right?
Yeah, that's right. With the music, the art, get them expressing themselves, talking about themselves. How do you feel? You know, I feel bad, and the art's like this, or we learn things about children that you can if a child, a 3-year-old, 4-year-old has a big painting and they do just about this much, well, you've got to start thinking, they do a little bit, are they lacking confidence? This because of this, whereas the child with confidence would generally go, So lots of great lessons that I learned, and that can be applied as an adult to adults as well.
It's really interesting, isn't it? That the concept of the naughty child or the whatever. When I was growing up, I was becoming a teenager around. Yeah, I hate to say the turn of the century, but around 2000 was when I was in high school, and I got diagnosed with ADD. And looking back on it, I don't think I ever had it. I think I was probably autistic, but that was just not something that we didn't know what autism was back then. How do you feel about the changing perceptions in, and obviously the increase, I guess, in diagnoses of things like Asperger's and autism in young people, and how we're teaching them?
Mate, well, me for starting at school. Now, I've been diagnosed since with ADHD and depression, right? But then with a touch of bipolar, I got a touch of bipolar in there. But so at school, I'd be so I'd be sitting at school, and my mind's just going everywhere, right? But of course, I'm a bad kid.
Yeah.
No thought that, okay. But things have changed these days where they do know people have these attention deficits or on the spectrum, or they have autism, or and I'll put Greg's son has been diagnosed.
Yeah, no, my son's got Asperger's too. So it always informs us. And then, knowing Anthony's struggles at times with mental health and issues, it's a crossover. You get to experience it and you see how the world, fortunately, has changed a little bit. I think possibly for the better in that regard. And it's more inclusive. And we were saying, I think the good thing about what we're addressing here to a degree, or what Anthony's addressing in his work in particular, is inclusiveness. Like there isn't any barrier to anybody being part of this. And I think that's, if you're going to generalize about the Wiggles over the last 30 years, that's a large part of it. They've sort of, the doors have always been open. And his process in the last couple of years, which was I sort of encouraged him to do this book, was, because they've changed the gender balance, they've got a different, ethnic background with everybody and stuff like that. It opens it up and makes it more inclusive, to people who have been not left out. Sure, they could have been part of it before too. But as you said, you want to see yourself up there sometimes. And I think increasingly that's what's happening. And I think that's one of the great things that they've really helped to surge, in the last 30 years.
Yeah, but before before they knew ADD or autism, all these children were getting like you have to behave the same way. Everyone has to set up like this, and that was hell for a lot of children. Yeah. So I think understanding mental health and understanding all children come from they've got different outlooks.
Right.
And if you accommodate that, you have a happy classroom, you have a happy child.
Yeah. And it's crazy, isn't it, that the labels that we put on things and the expectations that we have around that aren't always guarantees. Like, for example, we all so for context, Anthony, my family, Anthony was a guest of the Wiggles at their show in Brisbane. And we were hanging out backstage with them, which as we're getting led in the back, I'm just looking at my wife and going, "Are you impressed yet?" She's like, "Yes." yeah, we were sitting in the dressing room with you guys, and one of my one of my daughter is very gregarious. Oh, look, this is awesome. What's this? What's this? My son, still to this day, cannot look at any of the wiggles in the eye when he's in the room with them. He's just hiding, like, no, just can't deal with it.
Mm.
That's not the child I have who has Asperger's.
Right.
The child that I have who has Asperger's is the social butterfly in that situation. Like,
it's amazing, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Mislabels, and I mean, there's a whole lot of variations that we want to generalize everything, but the idea is if you include everybody, they find their own way, and that's the beauty of early education, early childhood was they use their imaginations to find their way, and you're guiding them as opposed to telling them where to go.
Yeah,
and I think that sort of translates into that sort of approach as well.
Tom, I've got an example of my ADHD in the army, and it got me in big trouble. So we were out bush, and I was on gun picket. I was at the gun, and now what's a guy with brain that's going boing 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 for 2 hours sitting there? So I decided, which I thought was a good thing, that I'd dismantle the machine gun and clean it. And Warrant Officer George, who'd been to Vietnam twice, came up behind me, and we had those old tin helmets. He grabbed it, started choking me, and said, "You've just effing killed the whole platoon, Private effing Field. You're on a charge when you get back." But now I think about it, it was just that brain of mine going, we've got to do something. Got to do something now.
I had the same thing, mate. I used to get into so much trouble. Like, we'd be in formation, we'd be going through the bush, and someone's doing nav, and they're trying to, you're trying to be, keeping pace of how many steps you're taking and where you are and your situational awareness and all. And meanwhile I'm there going, wow, look at that spider web.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, and when they when they do all the hand signals back, the class clown, of course, to the next guy, I'd be doing like some rude signals. Oh, jeez. Terrible, mate. Terrible.
Oh, bless. Well, now, with the skills that obviously you learn when you become a soldier, what did you take any of those with you, and did you find that you using them in everyday life, like, I don't know, a sense of organization, stuff like that?
I'm going to get Dom to come in and tell you how you think that I've brought it into the wiggles. But the worst thing I do, I carry everything in my left hand. It just happens, man.
Yeah.
So you can right. Everyone, okay, Dom, what do you think has come from the army that I've got everyone doing?
Well, punctuality is a big thing on tour. We always we have to be on time, and again, that's not just that's just a part of it. Makes everyone's life easier, especially we spend so long on the road together.
And with that, also if you're in the platoon, you're all in it. So if one person's late, we can't go, you've let everyone down. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Also, like a big part of our touring thing is we have our road cases with our costumes, and that's all got to be squared away. You know what I mean? At the end of a show or a tour or whatever it might be, for the people that have to now unload it and wash them and whatever, we have to make sure they're all squared away. It's all clean. It's all ready.
That's straight out of Kapuka.
That's the main thing.
Cleanliness on
cleanliness.
the road. There's a lot of good. I actually really loved the army, and I learned how to tour from the army. And when you're in the army, you see guys that they used to call them Jack. Do they still call them Jack?
Oh yeah.
So a guy's Jack when everyone else is doing work and one of the guys not doing it. He's just
Jack.
He's Jack. You don't want a person not in there with everyone.
Doing his stuff.
And we've got such a good bunch now. So yeah.
Look, everyone's mental health journey is obviously so different. But speaking from your own personal experience, I mean, what are some of your best bits of advice for just taking care of yourself? Like, for example, I've noticed you have taken yourself off, so you're taking a bit of a break off social media. Did this get spurred on by mental health?
Oh, absolutely, mate. One person can make, like someone put the thing of the book up and some guy wrote, oh, he's just doing it for the money. And I just went, well, what the hell? And
Yeah.
I just took it so personally. For a start, who makes money out of books? But, and I just went, and then people writing stuff that they know me, and I went, okay, I'm out. I'm gone. I need a break. I'm going to try. The world started going around again. So I had to get off Facebook. I got off Instagram, and I got off Twitter. Is it Twitter? No, Twitter, but I was never on that.
Instagram,
all that stuff. I got off. I don't know how long I'm going to stay off it, but I feel good that I'm off it. The only bad thing is you miss talking to people that I like, miss messaging people who you like.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I still have your number because I went to.
Mate.
This occurred to me while I was on the exercise bike, and I was like, "Oh, I should get in touch with Anthony about his book." And I went to look you up on Instagram, and I'm like, "Bloody hell, what's his handle? I can't."
Yeah. but you're good. You understand.
Yeah,
that's exactly why I got off. I was like,
you might put some other stuff that over the years, I think, you've dealt to learn to deal with the challenges too. I mean, the health and fitness to a degree, and some sort of processes.
Well, I don't like. I would go over. I can't. I'd drive ride my bike over a bridge and get off the bike and curl up in a ball, or I'd drive the car. The boys. This was a nightmare. I'd be driving the car with the guys in the car over the Westgate Bridge, have a panic attack, and the bridge is going to collapse. I'd stop. Like, imagine the poor guys. And so that stopped, and I think it's because of the medication that I'm on. But the other week I went to the doctor. Of course, it's been a couple of years of really smooth sailing. And I said, oh, Doc, do you think I could go off the medicine because I've been so good for so long? And he said, mate, you're on them for life. And I actually accept that. I needed to hear that because when I do go off, I had 2 months of crying the last time I went off them, and I was like, so for me, I understand I've got to do it, but I'm not having panic attacks and stuff like that at the moment, so it's good. Yeah.
I'm right there with you, man. I changed medication about a month or so ago, and feeling a lot better. And obviously, like it's a lifetime thing. But I think.
Did you ever? Yeah. Do you ever, Tom? You go, okay, I actually miss the buzz of the craziness.
A little bit. I was looking to wean myself off them a few months ago, and that was when it was. Then all of a sudden, I got told, I got some bad news regarding my discharge, and that knocked me for 6. And so they were like, "No, go back on them immediately." But for 4 days, it literally felt like my brain was getting pulled up. I was like, "It's not good. I do not recommend it." But it is interesting. And look, mate, you just need to realize that there's, your brain just might not be making the same chemical, the right balance of chemicals that everyone else does, and you just need that thing to just bring your level back up to where that function.
That's
just
true,
what we
mate.
have to do, buddy.
So,
just wanted to ask a fun one, and this is one that I have meant to. I've been meaning to ask you for a while. I laugh when I tell people because Anthony, after we went to, we were his guest at the Wiggle Show, he took me to my first and to this date only ever sports match. It was a rugby game. I'm just not a sports guy, so I just don't.
Dom was there. Dom was wearing his dolphin hat.
I remember doing his amazing dance. And I'm sitting there, and the first thing I'm thinking of is I'm looking around going, okay, the mayor's here, and I'm just looking around this room going, geez, I don't belong in this room, but they'll never know. I laughed with my wife. I was like, I tell you what, if you ever want to hear a Wiggle swear, You just sit next to him when his rugby team's losing.
It's true.
I heard anything.
No, it's so true, man. I forget myself when the Tigers are playing. I was once going crazy at a referee, and a little girl came up to me and asked, "Where's Wags?" And I straight away went, "Oh my God, I hope she didn't hear any of that." Wags is over.
You gotta let yourself be an adult sometimes, mate. You
do. You gotta watch out. You gotta look around.
Yeah. You gotta situational awareness is key. But it got me thinking. Here's a hypothetical situation. I want to know how you would handle it. So you're on stage with the Wiggles, and you're all going well, and one of you accidentally stubs their toe and hot mics the F word, and it goes through the PA. What do you do?
You look at each other, turn your mics off, and go, "Did you hear that?" And what would you do, Dom? I at Madison Square Garden, a prop fell on me, and I broke my wrist. It snapped my wrist, and I did not swear until I got backstage, and I let out everything. But so it has happened, but we haven't really had it happen yet.
33 years or whatever.
Yeah.
It's probably going to happen tomorrow.
Yes.
Well, I figured what I would do is, if that happened, would be just immediately go, "Hey, oh, look, what's over there?" The immediate, if someone says something bad around your toddler, you immediately just quickly change the subject. Look over here, GP.
Well, we have had Captain Feathersword accidentally, and it was accidental, mispronounce Henry's tentacles. You can imagine what he said. But the audience just laughed, man.
Yeah.
And so did we. But he did not mean to do it. Yeah. But it was very funny.
If anyone could get away with it, it would be him.
It's Paddy. Like